But these three girls decided to really literally take up arms against the Nazi occupier because they believed in justice and a livable world, and their moral compass was so strong that they saw this as the only possibility. So they, some of the very few women globally, they joined the armed resistance.
Welcome to Zestful Aging, where I interview thoughtful, inspiring, and influential guests who are making their mark on the world and contributing to the common good. Making your mark, big or small, is creating a legacy, and it's one of the proven ways we can age with vibrance and energy. The Zestful Aging podcast is my legacy. I'm your host, Nicole Christina, psychotherapist and fellow Zestful Ager. Our lovely music is courtesy of Judy Banker, who was a previous guest on Zestful Aging. Find out more about her on judybanker.com. And to find out more about this podcast, my web courses, and other offerings, hop on over to zestfulaging.com.
I know that everyone is feeling really stressed and anxious right now. We're all unsettled and feel out of control. So I created a free download for you for maintaining mental health based on my 30 years as a psychotherapist. Just go to zestfulaging.com and it is all yours.
Well, I've got my little loyal Jack Russell Sparky right by my side, so let's begin. We have a fantastic interview for you today. I've been thinking a lot about resistance to oppression in its many forms and across the generations. Yesterday, I interviewed Rita Dragonette about protesting the Vietnam War as a woman, and I listened to Obama eulogize John Lewis, highlighting the courage and absolute determination necessary to speak out against injustice. And what a treat to hear Obama's words. Today, we're going to hear another absolutely incredible story of courage in the fight against oppression and injustice. And it was carried out by teenage girls. And this is a story I promise you will never forget. We'll be speaking with Sophie Poldermans, who is the author of the best-selling book Seducing and Killing Nazis, Hannie Truus and Freddie, Dutch resistance heroines of World War II. And she personally knew both Truus and Freddie of the book for 20 years and worked closely with them for over a decade as a board member of the National Hanneschaft Foundation. Poldermans is the founder of Sophie's Women of War, shedding light on the role of women in conflict, and she's also a Dutch women's rights advocate, author, public speaker, lecturer, and consultant on women and war, human and women's rights related issues, and women's leadership. Welcome to the show, Sophie.
Thank you for having me.
It's such a pleasure to have you on. We just had some really tricky tech problems, so yay for us for persevering, and I hope it is well worth it for people to hear this story. It's something that stays with you. Once you know it, it's like you can't forget it. Can you just give a little synopsis of your book for people who don't know the story of these three incredible women?
Yes, of course. Well, it's a true story on three Dutch resistance heroines, Hanneschaft, who was 19 at the beginning of World War II, and the sisters Truus and Freddie Overstegen. And Truus was 16 and Freddie only 14 at the beginning of World War II. So they were teenagers growing up, just doing teenage things, and then all of a sudden the Netherlands were occupied by the Nazis, and they were faced with the question what to do. to adapt or to resist, which is quite a heavy question, especially if you're so young. But these three girls decided to really literally take up arms against the Nazi occupier, because they believed in justice and a livable world, and their moral compass was so strong that they saw this as the only possibility. So they, as some of the very few women globally, they joined the armed resistance.
It, you know, I as I was reading the book, of course you're thinking like, what would I do, and what, how was it for them, and how did they make these decisions? And you outline the fact that their upbringing was very much rooted in fighting for justice. Can you talk a little bit more about how they came to be? And of course, they each had different, well, the two sisters and then Hani, but how does one become a teenager who has the determination and wherewithal and belief to put herself in harm's way like this? How do we become that kind of girl?
Very, very good question. Well, Honey came from a very intellectual family where they really talked about politics and, of course, the Nazis, and then World War II and the occupation. And well, Honey was already from an early age, she really believed in justice, and already in high school she wrote a thesis on Mussolini and his invasion in nowadays Ethiopia. So already she had these very strong beliefs, and then she decided to go to law school in Amsterdam, and she had the dream of working for the League of Nations, the predecessor of the United Nations as we know them nowadays, in Geneva. So already she was shaped by her family, by her parents. They always talked about politics and all the injustices that were going on in the world. And then
what I find, like, there's this, and I know, I mean, you've lived with this story, and and have known these women for since high school, and we'll talk about that. But this is where I get a little bit stuck, and maybe you can help me. As a psychotherapist, I'm trying to imagine having the ideals, having the beliefs, which many of us have here in the States and all across the world. For example, protesting for and with Black Lives Matter, for example, or other justice causes, that we do what we can. But there's a long way to go from protesting to luring a high-ranking Nazi and what was the word? Not incinerating. What was the word that was used? Is a euphemism.
They would liquidate them.
Liquidate them. Yeah.
Liquidate. It's just a nice word for killing.
That's a weird word. So they liquidated them. These are teenagers, and they lured them in the woods, and they shot these soldiers to death. How do we get from belief and really understanding and wanting to help to the point where now we are shooting people to protect justice?
True. Of course, it's extremely hard to imagine if in peacetime. But if there's really a war going on, thank God I cannot really imagine it myself. But that's what I've heard from the first-hand witnesses that I talked to. If you have an occupier there is no gray. Basically, it's either it's very black and white. So you're either in favor or you are against the occupier. And of course, I mean, most people were against the occupier, and a lot of people just chose to live their lives, to continue their lives as normal as possible. Maybe because they were afraid, and there were only 5% of the Dutch population actually joined the resistance, and of that, only a very small percentage the armed resistance, and of that group, only literally a handful of women. But I think it's really the circumstances of war, and then this extreme drive to really act against it. And well, yeah, they, of course, this what they started out small. They started, all three girls started out with stealing identification papers for Jewish people in hiding. And then these papers would be forged by the resistance. Or they would try to bring Jewish children from one safe house to another. So it was a gradual scale. They didn't start shooting.
Have their gun in their pocketbook.
Yes.
Right, and dye their hair and do this. So you became quite close with two of these women.
Yes, that's correct.
And what was that like for you, Sophie, as you got hooked on, interested, drawn in by this story when you were a high school student writing a high school report, and things never were the same?
True. Well, Hannie Schaft is very famous in Holland. She's an icon, like Anne Frank. She's the symbol for female Dutch resistance. And so when I had to write a history research project on a self-chosen topic, for me that was obvious, Hannie Schaft, because I grew up in the same city, thank God, under completely different circumstances. And I was always fascinated by wars, and the fact that people are capable of committing horrible crimes. I mean, this must also be of interest for you as a psychologist. So I was familiar with Hannie Schaft's story, and I really tried to pose myself the question, okay, what would I have done if I were in her shoes? That really made me dive into her life story even deeper. And through a friend of my father's, I discovered Truth's contact details, and I called her up for an interview. And she was so kind to invite me over, and a special bond grew from there. And yeah, I was completely fascinated by Truth, and she was so extremely down to earth. She could easily have been my grandmother. So it was really this, but such strong beliefs that I thought, wow, these are women with such a strong moral compass. I really want to learn more about that. And so Truus also introduced me to Freddie, her sister.
And you never would have imagined, I'm guessing, that you would have written a paper, you were interested, and that this would have shaped your entire life and career.
Yes. No, of course, I had no idea when I was 16 that now at almost 40, I would still be talking about these women. But yeah, I was this, like you said, this really shaped me. It's become a red thread through my own life, and made me decide to go to law school and study international law, a little bit in Hannie Schaft's footsteps. And really focusing on women's rights. And yeah, because I knew Freddie and Truus for over 20 years. I had so much time to talk to them, and when I was a teenager, I really saw the hero part, the heroine part. But later on in life, I thought, oh, these are also just not ordinary women, but human beings who were struggling with the fact that they were taking lives. They had depressions afterward. They were suffering from PTSD. So I also in this book wanted to highlight that side, that they were human, and that they were hunted by that for the rest of their lives.
And they sacrificed. I mean, this was not just something that they did then, right, to put themselves in harm's way. And Hani, of course, was executed. But it's not something to, oh, they did that, that's great. I mean, they sacrificed some of their own mental health for the rest of their lives.
Yes, and right after the war, they were not recognized as resistance fighters at all. They really had to fight for recognition, and that was partially because the resistance group that they belonged to, the Council of Resistance, had some communist members. So especially in the Cold War, that was something that people didn't talk about, and really wanted to downplay the role of the communist resistance. And that went even so far that both sisters were actually shot at in 1951. So after the war, they gave everything for their country, and then after the war, they were still in danger. Luckily, they were unharmed, but also mentally, that was extremely tough for them. And especially Freddie was very fierce about the fact that women resistance fighters were not recognized as such, or not the same as the male ones.
And now I saw the photos in the book of you being at the wreath laying ceremonies. And is this an annual ceremony?
Yes, that's correct. Every last Sunday of November, there is an annual commemoration service organized by the Dutch National Hannieschaft Foundation. And the reason why it's in November is because Hannieschaft, who was executed 3 weeks before the end of the war, so very tragic, so close to the end, she was reburied on November 27, 1945. So with the Queen and at the honorary cemetery. So that's why this date is still there, to commemorate her.
And now after the war, did you talk to the women about Anne Frank and the legacy she left? What part did that play after the diary was published?
Yes, of course. Well, and of course there are two completely different stories, because Anne Frank is really a story of survival, whereas this was a resistance story. But I mean, Anne Frank and girls and people like Anne Frank were the reason why these three women decided to take up arms, because they did not tolerate any injustice toward Jewish people or any of the other enemies of the Nazi regime.
Yeah, I was just thinking that they were traveling in the same neighborhoods. Is that accurate, Sophie? That they were in the same area of Holland?
Not well. Roughly, yes. For American standards, definitely.
Yeah.
But there are different cities.
Different parts. I see. Okay. Yeah.
So Anne Frank was really in the center of Amsterdam, and Haarlem is a city close to Amsterdam. It's 12 miles west. So it's a really separate city. So they wouldn't.
They wouldn't have crossed paths.
No. Hannieschaft did study in Amsterdam, also in the center. So yeah, maybe who knows?
And we know, and there must have been many stories that some we know, some we don't, of hiding and resistance that have not come.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Hello, everyone. I wanted to tell you about a product I've been using lately for aches and pains that's really helped me, and I've been singing it from the rooftops. Some of you may already have discovered the benefits of using CBD. I have found it to be a game changer for my creaky joints. I'm a tennis player and I have 3 dogs, and being active is really important to me, and we know how important it is in aging well. But at age 59, my joints can be a bit stiff, especially in my knees. And this stuff has really helped, so I don't have to wear a knee brace anymore, which really wasn't such a good look. I've done my research, and it's very important to get the highest quality ingredients. There's a lot of junk on the market, so you have to make sure the product is tested by a third-party lab at the very least. My favorite company is called Prose, Proze, and they have several products that are formulated for specific problems, including sleep and mental focus. Lately, I've been using the performance gum called Yippies and the Nods, which helps me sleep and tastes very cinnamony. If you go to their website, prose.com, and enter the coupon code ZESTFUL, you're going to get 15% off. I highly recommend trying it out. I think you're really going to be surprised how effective it is, and I would love some feedback from you on how it works. Again, the website Prose, Proze.com. Coupon code is ZESTFUL. Thank you. Now back to the show.
So I'm wondering how it's been for you to know this story so intimately and be so drawn in by it, travel the footsteps of some of these women. Has that been difficult for you to have this intimate knowledge of what happened in your country? Is that something that you've had to reckon with as a woman and as a Dutch woman?
Yes, well, of course. I mean, it did shape me, and it made me choose my career path toward international criminal law, so really war crimes. So I not only focused on World War II, but I also did research in the former Yugoslavia, in Bosnia and Kosovo, and Rwanda. In the post-genocide Rwanda. So yeah, it definitely shaped me, but it also really made me who I am, and made my moral compass even stronger. So yes, and of course very intimate as well, because I'm still in touch with the families of and Freddie. Both passed away, but I'm still in touch with their children. And sometimes it's especially Freddie never really talked about the war with her children, so it's I don't really have the word for it, but it's really weird that I know more of their mother's resistance work than her own children. Of course, there's more distance, so they were probably more open to me with sharing their stories, especially Freddie. But still, yeah, it's a weird position. Yeah.
How do you keep your own sanity having such detailed examples of war crimes and working on them and thinking about them and knowing more than most of us know or want to know? How do you keep yourself healthy?
Well, it's very important to make sure that you keep distance. So for a while, I also worked at the Yugoslav court for the former Yugoslavia, and I read these incredible witness statements on torture and the most horrible crimes, and also doing the research in Rwanda. You really need to take some time to digest, like, what did I really read this? Did I really see this? Is this really what people told me? And I really try to focus on the positive. What can I do with this information, and how can I make sure that this will never again happen again? Of course, I'm not that naive that I know that there's always going to be wars, but I think from these individual stories we can really derive lessons for our own life, translate them into our own lives, and if you, because it doesn't start with World War II didn't start with gas chambers. It starts with discrimination, exclusion, and if we are aware of those signals, we can really respond rather than react. So I think it's very important that we know these stories, pass them on, and can learn from it.
And so when you see the number of hate crimes, for example, increasing in the U.S., and I can't speak for Europe, but certainly there's plenty of people there.
Similar trends, yeah.
Similar trends, neo-Nazi. How do you respond to that?
Also neo-Nazi, to give you an example, here in the beginning of May, 4th of May is always our commemoration day annually, and 5th of May is our Liberation Day. And around these days, I was taking a walk in the Haarlemmerhout, which is the city forest of Haarlem, and that is where these three girls, Hannie Schaft and Truus and Freddy Oversteven, would kill their Nazi targets. But it's very close to my house, so I often go there for a walk. And at one of these spots, there was actually a swastika painted in early May, and I was so shocked because I always go there like, thank God it's been so long since World War II, and now I was so shocked. I was like, no, so I called the police and anti-discrimination group to report it, and it was erased. But it really got to me, and I thought, wow, this is getting so close, and people are tattooing swastikas on their arms, and they have no idea of the meaning. When I was growing up, that wouldn't have happened, but now it, or at least not in this sense. Of course, there would be other extreme outlets, but I was shocked. But at the same time, very motivated to continue this fight for justice. Yes, so it always makes my drive stronger.
I see. It seems to me you can really focus on the strength of the resistance and, as you say, the moral compass, or you could dwell on how horrific the tragedies were, that being very intentional about, I'm going to focus on this part, would be important. Otherwise, you would never want to get out of bed in the morning.
No, because these are horrible stories. War crimes are happening every day, and hate crimes, exclusion, discrimination. But also we do see that if people are aware, if there is some education, some knowledge, that change takes time. But with the Black Lives Matter movement, for example, you do see that there is change. People are willing to to say, okay, so there might be structural racism in society, and we need to do something about that. So yeah, that's always what I hang on to. Positive elements.
Have you been heartened by the Black Lives Matter protests in the United States? Is that something that makes you feel hopeful?
Yes, I mean, of course, shocked that it's on this systematic and this widespread. Or maybe not entirely shocked, but we have the same thing here in Europe. But it's good to have it all out in the open, and then if you put all the facts next to each other, it's like, oh, this is really horrible. But yeah, people are willing to protest, are willing to stand up for each other. So are human and are compassionate, and yeah, together we can. So yes, it does give me hope, but it always takes time.
Mm-hmm. So for those of our listeners or audience all over the world, and hearing us and hearing you talk about these incredible women who are in one way ordinary, in another way extraordinary, what can ordinary people do to stand up to injustice? Just sort of us regular folks who probably won't be like Hani for many, many reasons. But where do we start?
Well, if you see that discrimination, exclusion, bullying already starts in kindergarten, if you really learn that we of course we're not equal, but you should treat people equally. If you start with that from a very early age, just take it small, translate it to your own world. If you see that their kid is being bullied, stand up for the kid. Or if there's a group of people, make sure that that I don't know, you group together with, or that you take leadership and get a group together to speak out against injustice. Or at the work, on the work floor, I'm glad with the Me Too movement that sexual harassment is out in the open. So yeah, by naming, blaming, shaming, you can start out with little things. And translate it to your own world, and that's already, you can make such a big difference.
Oh, that's really helpful, because I think many of us would say, we read your book and say, oh my goodness, it's just incredible story. But then, you say, wow, like, would I do that? I don't know. It's impossible to imagine. And then, maybe, okay, I'm never going to be like these women, but I want to do something, right? I don't want to just read about it or think about it. I want to do something. What's that first step? So it's really helpful to talk about the small steps in your, in your world, in your daily life. I think people, of course, are going to want to hear more. I'm surprised this hasn't been a film. Has that been talked about at all, making this into a film?
Yes. You're not the first to ask. Yes, I sold the film rights, but I'm not able to disclose to whom. So stay tuned.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear that. What a story. Oh my goodness. Oh, I'm trying to imagine who would be the great actresses who could play these women. Oh, now I'm going to be thinking about this. Oh, do you have any sense of when it's going to be, when we can find out more? Is that something that will be announced? No?
No, I'm sorry. I can't.
You're not giving anything up, Sophie.
No, sorry.
Okay, you're sworn to secrecy.
So secrecy, yeah, but that's for the best. But yeah, well, you'll have something to look forward to.
I'm so excited. So I want people to know where to find you. I know you have spoken all over the world, and I'm sure you're not traveling now, but I know you're giving lectures and trainings. Talk to us about where's the best place to find you to find out more about this amazing story.
Yeah, so to learn more about my work, you can go to the website sophieswomenofwar.com. And there's also more information in the book, but there's also a separate book website, Seducing and Killing Nazis.com, where you can find the book, but you can also find it through Amazon and all the
and it's
other retailers.
Good, and it's enjoyed some real success. I mean, that title, it just makes you want to look at it immediately. It's truly, I mean, we talked about this before. My father's family's from Munich, and my grandmother had a little store in Munich. And of course, the bombing caused a lot of flooding. She told stories of having to bilge out the basement because, of course, the water lines break. But she told stories of hiding American soldiers who had been shot down in her wine cellar. So I grew up, knowing these stories and being fascinated as a child by the story of Anne Frank, as many, many, many women and girls were. But when I was in middle school, we saw the film, and the actress and I looked somewhat similar. So at that point, I was like completely just taken, so absorbed with the family, the story, and just felt such a sort of an interest, and it was also life shaping for me as well. And then as an older adult, having the opportunity to visit a concentration camp and really see for myself, the remains of what that looked like. It's life-changing. You can't leave that experience and just go and get a coffee and it's fine.
No.
It's when you go and you see the troughs where people, were executed, and there's no way to forget that.
No, but extremely important to carry that with you and to pass on the story. Yeah.
Yes. Sophie, thank you so much for being with us today through all the tech problems. We made it through. You're a tenacious woman, as we can see in many ways. So appreciate your work, and I think people will really want to hear more and read more about these magnificent women. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was really a pleasure to be here.
Hey everyone, I wanted to tell you about a powerful new tool that supports your mental and emotional health in what are extremely trying times. And you may remember that I've been a psychotherapist for 30 years, and I'm always a little suspicious of products that claim to help us feel less anxious, depressed, or worried. But then I was introduced to a new kind of app called Cope Notes, and I have become a big fan. Cope Notes was developed by a guy who spent a lot of his life trying to figure out what might help support him through his own weekly psychotherapy sessions. Cope Notes is an app that gives you random texts through the day to break through some of the negative messages that might be repeating in your head. It's well researched and has been adopted by many mental health facilities. I highly recommend it. I think we can all use a little support right now. So check out copenotes.com/zestful. I will receive a small portion of those proceeds. And I'd love to hear your feedback about how it works for you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Zestful Aging. If you like the podcast, please share it with some of your friends. I love to hear from my listeners. Send me an email at NicoleChristina.com. It's no secret that everyone's feeling pretty restless and unsettled right now. Our lives are upside down and the future is feeling pretty uncertain. But if you're anything like me, organizing my stuff can help me feel a little calmer. It's something I can do to help me feel a little more in control and in charge of my own life. If you think decluttering could help you feel better and you could use a little assistance with that, check out the online course I've developed with professional organizer and designer Carrie Luderin. It's called Too Much Stuff. And Too Much Stuff is different from other courses or articles or guidance you may have used up. We give you clear steps to deal with the clutter and the tools to help you face the overwhelming feelings and the emotions that come up when we're going through our clutter. And a lot of those emotions are just feeling anxious or guilty or just basically flooded with a lot of different confusing feelings. The course is really practical. It's realistic. The lessons are short and punchy, and they're really manageable. We're not trying to set you up for some long exploratory, super in-depth, burdensome experience. We want something really helpful for you right now. We all need help with our anxiety. So being surrounded by more calm and less chaos can really help. So now's a good time to clear out the clutter so we can focus on what's really important in our lives. So find out more at zestfulaging.com. You'll see more about this under the web courses tab. If you have any questions, just shoot me an email at zestfulaging@gmail.com. Thanks so much. And stay tuned next week for another interview with a fascinating and inspiring guest.